Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this Spark session. The topic for today is solving wealth management challenges for low-income households. So, my colleague Shilpa and myself, Amit Shah, from Asma Rural Finance, are going to present this Spark topic for you. So the way we've designed or the way we've gone about making this presentation is there have been several case studies or several instances that we've picked up from the KGFS database, several instances from the field, from which we've actually picked up of what are people's financial lives like, what have people actually done on a regular basis, and several case studies have been compressed into one short story. So this Spark is going to be presented in the form of a short story of how a particular household has traveled through 3 years of its financial journey. So we'll introduce the household to you and we'll introduce the different events as it progresses of how the household has carried itself, what all the household has done, and how wealth management could have or actually has solved many of the issues that this household has been facing. So, yeah. If I would introduce you to the household.
So let's meet Padma's household. So Padma is a very typical customer that KGFS deals with on a daily basis. She's 42 years old and a daily wage laborer. Her husband Veeramani is 45 years old and he's also a daily wage laborer. They have 2 kids, one Kavita who's 20 years old and in the first year of a polytechnic course, and Vijay who's 18 years and in the first year of a BCom degree course. Now let's look at Padma's assets and liabilities. She has one thatched house, 1/3 acre of land, 9 grams of gold, 13 goats, and 5,200 in cash, which she saves in her house. She starts the year off with no liabilities, which is a good sign. So you can see Veeramani earns more than Padma, though they both are involved in wage labor. The total inflows are around 51,600.
Their expenses, while they are smaller than their inflows, at about 40,500 during the year, you can see that festival food and transport, which are the basics, make up most of their expenses. Now, while this looks like a good picture because the annual surplus is at around 11,100, it's not such a simple story, and as we progress through the year's events, we'll know why. Now, Padma and Veeramani have certain very basic goals. One is that they want to put both their children through college in the next 3 years. They want to get their daughter married, and for that they want to save both in cash and in the form of gold. They want to purchase a cow, not only to tide over their seasonality in income, but also to grow it and in some sense make their financial life a little better. So what is the financial landscape that this household is living in? So this is Padma's village and this is Padma's house. Somewhere around the periphery of her own village are these financial service providers. So you have the money lender who basically lends against gold and property. You have an insurance agent who sells mostly endowment plans and only insurance policies. You have the MFI agent who is close to her house, who comes over whenever there are disbursements to be made. But then there is also a bank somewhere in the nearby town and the MFI office, which Padma has to visit very regularly if she has to make any other financial transactions. The bank has the whole set of financial products that at a very basic level Padma requires, but then they are not very suited to her financial requirements, so she can't approach it often. And the microfinance institution, of course, she doesn't visit too often because the agent comes over. But then again, all these financial service providers do not offer her a complete set of financial products that she requires. And Padma has to spend a lot of time moving, shuffling between these providers. And at the end, the products that she gets, as we will see, are not very suited to what her requirements are. So let's have the story 3 years ago in April 2008. This is how Padma's position looked like. In April, she has no income from labor activities but an expense of 3,000 rupees. Then she also has no liabilities, but she has 5,200 cash at hand. She has 13 goats, which she has accumulated from last year's savings of around 11,000 rupees that she made, and 9 grams of gold. Now there's an important event that happens in April, which is her college fee expenses. That's something Padma knows that is coming, but she has somehow forgotten to plan for. So what does she do to meet these college fee expenses? The local MFI at that point is offering a joint liability group loan product. And though Padma has collateral which she can essentially pledge and take a loan, she feels that that's a good opportunity because the MFI doesn't require much documentation and they are willing to give that loan just if she is able to gather 5 other women. So she takes that 15,000 JLG loan from the MFI, but it still doesn't satisfy her full requirement of the college fees as well as the 3,000 rupees that she has to spend during the month. So she decides to sell 3 goats. And she sells these goats for 7,500, essentially leaving her with an excess surplus of 2,400. So what are the problems in this method of managing her requirement? One is that she faces inadequate credit from any one source, though she clearly needs 20,000 rupees for education. She's not able to get it from her local MFI, and which means she has to sell physical assets. There's the added difficulty of finding a buyer for that, which of course delays her fee payment. In addition to that, it's an unsuitable ticket size because if you see that she actually needed around 5,100 rupees more than the college fees to make good her other expenses during the year, but because she can't sell 2.5 goats, she essentially ended up selling one more asset. So while I say that the JLG has been a very convenient option and has helped her meet her goals, it's not very suited to this exact purpose for which she borrowed, which is her education expenses. And we'll see why when we come to her next month, which is May. Now May starts with an outstanding of 15,000 because she's borrowed from the MFI. She has no income in May and an added expense of 2,150. She sold her goats, so she has lesser assets. But because the goat sale gave her some extra money, she has around 2,400 of cash in hand. So now she's faced with the problem of not only that she doesn't have the income, she also has an added repayment on her JLG loan. So she pledges a piece of jewelry weighing 2 grams and gets some additional money from the local money lender. The problem with this is that while she did manage to meet this month's requirements, the unsuitable repayment schedule which is imposed on her by her JLG loan has forced her into additional borrowing. Whereas these cash flows are very predictable, and Padma knew when she was borrowing the JLG loan that the next month would be a difficult month for her and she wouldn't be able to make that payment. But because she didn't have any other options, this is what she ends up doing. And not only does this mean that she has an additional debt burden, there is also excess jewel locked into the loan. So here you see that there is the jewel loan as against the JLG solves the problem of flexibility in loan amounts in the sense that it is allowing her to borrow ticket sizes which are more flexible than a JLG which comes in 5, 10, 15 and certain tranches. But because again the jewel is not essentially breakable, she owns pieces of jewelry and not units of a gold fund or individual gold coins, and hence she is forced to over collateralize her loan and pledge more than what is required. Then in June, July and August, they seem like good months, though she has a large amount of loan outstanding. She has a total surplus in 3 months of around 10,950 rupees. And so she repays her jewel loan and decides that she can use the surplus to buy 2 grams of gold. Of course, she thinks that's important because that's one of her goals that we mentioned earlier. But again, by doing so, what happens is that she forgets to maintain any cash for planning for her liquidity. So the assumption behind this is that she has gold, she has goats, and to Padma, those are still options, liquid options available for her to access cash whenever she wants. However, she doesn't think that it is necessary to put the money that she had in savings or a liquid asset as against buying 2 grams of gold, which is her priority. So from September to October, these are again unique months. In September, it's a lean period, you don't have money from agricultural labor. In October, there's a big expense of, October and November, a big expense of Diwali that suddenly crops up. So she doesn't have money to manage her Diwali expenses. and she ends up taking further jewel loans, and that only exacerbates her existing borrowing. So at the end of this, she has exhausted most of her jewels. So this comes up to some 7 grams of jewel pledge. So she's left with 2 grams and left with no surplus, and has exhausted her unused borrowing capacity. So in the previous months, you have seen that even though she had exhausted a surplus, she still had some collateral in terms of unused credit limit, which she could have used to harness liquidity. So at the end of this period, even that option is gone. And then again, she keeps selling her assets to meet predictable expenses in December and April. As you see, these are things that she could have planned for, but she only ends up exacerbating that issue. And finally, when it's May, the second cycle of JLG loan is available, and though she's already very indebted at this point, she thinks that it's wise to pay back some of her loan, and she uses this JLG loan to repay a jewel loan and then buy a cow for 15,000. But you see, again, the JLG loan may not be exactly suited to the purpose that she's using it for. In her mind, the cow is a very important goal, and she wants to buy it. However, the decision of buying a cow may not have been the right one now, given that she has not planned enough, she's not protected, and she may end up buying an inferior variety because she's just using the loan amount that is available to her. So could she have done things differently if there were better options available to her, if there was a very different scenario? What would Padma's household have done, and how could she have relived all these choices? Let's look at what happened.
Yeah, so far it was a situation where there was a money lender, there was an insurance agent, there was an MFI. She had some credit, she had some goals. So within the options available, she was kind of managing well. But let us see if she is actually presented with more options, with different kind of options, what she would have done. So what we are actually doing is going back to 2008, January 2008, and seeing how things might have panned out if they were a little different. So this is the new financial landscape of her village. It's changed a little bit. Her house remains as is. Apart from the 3 people who are already there, there is a new customer-focused local financial institution that's available next to her village. So this institution offers multiple products. So it's not just loans. She has access to loans, savings, insurance, investment options, along with advice-based wealth management framework. So how choices can be very different if such a financial institution is available for a household like Padma. Of course, the other institutions like the bank, which is outside near the city, and an MFI office are also options that are still available with Padma. Right. So this is a different picture where things are very different because of the presence of a physical branch itself at the village where Padma is living. So we just take you through how Jan to April might have looked like. So the decisions that Padma took are very different in this kind of situation. So earlier we saw that she had started off with 13 goats, but now she's not starting off with 13 goats, she's starting off with 4 goats only. She was essentially using goats as a savings instrument, but now that she has access to a savings bank instrument, she's not saving in goats, but actually saving in the bank account. So while her incomes and expenses remain the same, the choice of investment has changed a little bit over here. Also, since she's because of the presence of the local financial institution, while she had gone to save money into, or gone to deposit money into the bank account, the local financial institution told her something about financial planning. So when she was listing down one of her goals, she said that one of her goals is educating her 2 kids, and there is a college fee that is coming up in April. So the advice that was given to her was, why don't you take an education loan? Because you know for sure that the fee payment is going to come in April, but the returns from the college education is not going to come anywhere near the next 3 years. So if you take any other loan, it would basically be unsuitable for you, because the cash flows are not really matching the purpose for which you have taken the loan. So she went by the advice of the local financial institution. She took the 20,000 of education loan, through which she funded the college fee. So because of which she really didn't have to juggle between borrowing and pledging jewels or selling goats. So life was a little smoother at this point in time. She had also, because now that she had some surplus left, she also covered herself by buying some life insurance and accident insurance as advised by the local financial institution. She continued to invest in gold, so she bought 1 gram of gold during these months, and on and off she kept dipping into her savings and paying in and off of the savings account. So that's how she was managing these 4 months in the changed scenario. So some of the advantages that that came to her was she was able to fit the products exactly to her needs. So she took appropriate loan products. Instead of taking a JLG for an education purpose, she took an education loan which really has a 3-year moratorium and then starts a payment for that purpose. And she really didn't have to sell her assets or pledge them in distress. Of course, that option is still available to her. She has her jewels. She could still do that, but she really did not have to do that in this situation. So let's move to how the next 4-5 months looked for her from May, June, July, August, September. The seasonality really never changed. So even in the earlier scenario where there were lean months of April, September, the very same lean months still exist. Nothing really changed about them. But the advantages that were available to her was that she already had built up some buffer for her in the form of her savings account, which she could dip on and off. She really didn't have to borrow each time. So these were the months when she had considerable surplus, an income of about 17,900 and an expense of 11,250, which gave her enough surplus. So she again bought like 4 grams of gold, and she kept dipping in and off, really exploiting the full functionality of a savings bank account. And you see that when she began at this point in time, she had like enough surplus, 8,200. So she was really comfortable and confident that in case there is an emergency or any situation of this kind, she can actually cope with that. Right? So very different situation. By just changing a product, by just choosing the right product, by just choosing the right thing that suits the purpose for which it has been taken. October, again, a month where September itself is a lean month, so there isn't much that the household carry forwards to October. But October again is a month where there is festival expenses, so and incomes are clearly not enough to match expenses. So again, this is where her planning, her whatever she's saved up has actually helped her. Apart from this, she's also like taken up a overdraft facility from the neighborhood local financial institution, and this overdraft facility has basically given her the flexibility of repaying and borrowing as frequently as she wants. So because given the seasonality, there is April month which is a difficult month, May, June, July again which they do well, September they do badly, October there is a big expense. So really no structured product fits this kind of a requirement for this particular household. where overdraft facility comes in very handy for the household, and she's really able to juggle between the overdraft facility and her savings balance while taking care of these months. Similarly, in November, it's very similar. She's able to manage quite well. So these are contrasting from the earlier situations where every month was literally paying up an earlier loan, taking another jewel, but this is simply managing between whatever she already has. Very similar situations, and the advantage that she now has is, apart from not being excessively burdened, she's also able to look at other options. She's also able to take enough insurance for whatever purposes she has. She's built up sufficient amount of gold. Her assets are intact, and she has some bank balance. But now, if for a moment we've just contrasted two situations of how she managed in the absence of certain products, and by just choosing the right and the most suited products, how different scenarios can be. So what we do is, for a moment, we step back into her earlier situation, the old world of Padma, and see what happened. So we stopped the time at May 2009. Now we go back to May 2009 and see how it looks like in June, July, and August 2009.
So far we saw how Padma planned in the old and new world for all predictable expenses. But now something different happens in August. So we still have all Padma's current position on top, but suddenly Veeramani falls ill and he has to spend 5,000 on medical expenses. Now these expenses are not insurable, so obviously she couldn't have planned ahead for it. Though she had some amount of savings balance, it was still not sufficient, because you can't really predict what the expenses for this treatment will be. And in addition, because Veeramani is not well, she has to also forego some wages. So both of them, where they could have ended up earning a large amount of income, you saw that previous year, these were periods where they made significant amount of money. They now also have to incur loss of wages, which is again non-insurable risk. So now she pledges 7 grams of jewel again from a local money lender. And you see the flip side of such a contingency arising. Because she had not planned for health emergencies, she's again overburdened. She's left with not only no savings or assets, not even borrowing capacity, and there is an added college fee coming up in December, which she's still to plan for. What would this same situation had looked like, given that all the planning has been done in the new world for Padma? So in the new world, when the same situation occurs, she draws from her savings and she is able to use an overdraft facility available to her to tide over this wage loss. So there is an additional savings cushion that helps her for non-insurable emergencies, and the overdraft line again has provided her with a very flexible instrument to tide over these loss periods. So what happens at the end of September 2009 for the old world Padma and the new world Padma? In the current world, you see that Padma has acquired a new asset, which is a cow, but at the cost of an 18,200 outstanding loan, around 3 goats from the 13 that she had, no land because it's been leased out, only 4 grams of gold, and no cash at hand or balance in the bank. In contrast, Padma in the new world has a much lesser outstanding amount of 5,760. She has kept intact her original gold and has built up around 14 grams of gold. She has a bank balance of 3,290, which is helpful for her to tide over her emergency requirements. She has lesser goats, but she still has her 1/3 acre of land. The big difference you can notice is that there's a slight shift towards better diversification in the second case, though this is not still the ideal stage for Padma. She has moved into more financial assets as compared to physical assets in the first situation, and she has saved up nearly 7,000 rupees of interest payment expenses, which she did by borrowing so much, not just pure borrowing but also borrowing through inflexible loans, which put her into further indebtedness. And there is an added advantage here that this family is now also protected as compared to what had happened previously. But
Where did the 40,000 rupee loan go?
40,000.
So that's still
Education loan,
no,
25,000.
But because it's payable 3 years later, it's not.
Nevertheless a loan,
It's
no?
it's on her kids' repayment, not on her balance sheet. So it's not here.
yeah, what you're saying is right. It's still a loan.
But her, her
So
students
40,000
after
plus
the earlier.
interest.
Correct.
So in effect, not showing it. It's a contingent liability on her in any case. Even if you were to not look at it as a liability.
Correct.
There is a 40,000 plus whatever rate of interest that you want to charge on top of that, because it's not, interest also is not being serviced. So if you were to add that liability here,
So what you're saying is right. So
See, there
it's,
is a-
it's still a liability,
if there
but
is a
it's
generous lender who keeps lending you without charging any interest for next 5 years, it looks very different.
no. It is not. It's not so much to say that the loan isn't there. The loan is very much there, but it's not payable in her current situation.
Cash flow, yes. At a position perspective,
It's what you're saying is right. True. It's not immediately payable. That's why we not sure. Yeah, but
So this is the
but why is
position at the
the
end
cow
of.
not showing any income at all in the current quarter?
it does.
We're just numbering.
No. So this it does add income. The cow is adding up to income.
Okay, but that income is not reflecting anywhere.
We
It's
assuming.
included as a number, yes.
In the projections, a large proportion of this is going towards her loan payment, so there's no cash at hand from the cow. So her labor activities in September don't give her any money, and the cow income is used essentially to make up for her loan repayment.
So we actually made a spreadsheet
Okay,
backing
yes,
this.
but-
We'll share that.
So far we have seen how Padma managed very basic issues of cash flow planning, both short-term and long-term requirements, building up small lump sums for routine expenses as well as long-term goals. And these are issues which we saw can be solved with a simple problem of just access to the right products and a very basic tweaking at the product design level. However, there are several other things that Padma needs to bear in mind, and there are still a lot of issues that Padma still needs to address, and so let's talk about those issues.
So some of these issues are issues that we've identified, but not really given direct solutions in this spark. So we hope to do a second spark, which will be like a continuation of this sometime later on, where we will actually deal with the second set of issues. So the issues that we dealt with right now were more at something that you could do immediately. So say something like protecting yourself, something like building up a savings balance, or simply planning ahead of a goal. So you know that there is a college fee to be paid in April and December, planning for that. So these are very, very simple tools that were available and were manageable immediately. But there are certain issues that are at a larger level which are yet to be addressed. So we are listing down some of them. So what if there is a catastrophe in the village? What if there is a flood in the village? What if the assets that the household owns crash? So these are really very possible kind of situations, but answers for which are not immediately available to this household. So how does the household really diversify into assets which are not really correlated with whatever they are existing, whatever they are owning? How do households really protect themselves from such kind of contingencies? So this is one question that we have not answered in this particular story. The second one is, how does Padma and her husband Veeramani really plan for their retirement? So in the story so far between 2008 2009, what they've done very well is really planning intra-year liquidity, juggling between months, but haven't really thought about retirement. So today she's 42 years old. What happens when she's 60 years old? is she already starting to think about that? How is the local financial institution helping her plan her retirement? So this is like a second issue that needs to be thought about. The third one is on inflation. So to some extent, she has access to a savings bank account, which does not fully protect against inflation. Then she's also been investing in gold, so which is somewhat like a proxy for inflation. But the purpose for which she's been saving up in gold is really for her daughter's marriage. So this is another issue. So can there be instruments that can really give her protection against inflation? Is like the third issue that we've identified. It's not within this. And if she actually gets into full-scale agriculture, so she has a piece of land which she can sow and harvest, but commodity price risk is another issue. So how does she protect herself against this bit? So these are some of the issues or that are very, very real for this household, but we have not really fully discussed the solutions for these. So this is where we end like the story for Padma and how she actually traveled through these 2 years and how some of her financial and wealth management challenges were handled. And there's still some road to travel. So, yeah, this is where we end, and we'll be happy to take questions.
On a very broad level, I'd like to add that you don't see many differences in the problems that Padma is facing and the problems that we face. There are essentially just 4 challenges. One is of gathering small sums to meet routine requirements. The second is for getting lump sum amounts to meet large ticket expenses that are unpredictable. The third is to have some growth options to fund her goals, for skill development, to help her improve from the position that she's currently in. And the fourth one is to have a cushion to meet all the various kinds of risks that she faces. So these are the same 4 problems that everyone faces, just what is different in her case is the way her cash flows vary, that the income is so unpredictable, that she has multiple occupations, that she doesn't know when she will get her next income, and that she doesn't have access. So in the long road to complete access to finance, there are 3 things that are very important. One is access to the physical infrastructure itself. Once we have that, a very capable provider who's able to not only design the right set of products that are required for the clients, but is also able to understand what his clients' requirements are and structure them accordingly. And the third is a capable consumer who, after having access to all these products, is able to take the right decisions so that he is able to achieve efficient outcomes and ultimately move on a higher path towards financial well-being. That's all.
So one sort of difference between the old world and new world Padma was, I think, the first scenario was relying quite a bit on short-term borrowings to finance a lot of expected and unexpected sort of events. And there is a lot of what you're showing in the new world is sort of transitioning to a much more savings-led sort of financing of events. I think it helpful if you can say a little bit more about why are so many of our clients kind of stuck in the borrowings equilibrium? Why is it so hard for them to move? Is it just absence of products? Is it anything more?
Looking through this case, so this case is actually a combination of at least 10 cases that we have seen so far. So the balance sheet is of one customer, the events are of another customer, and we just identified 2 broad issues. One was purely access, so one was the savings bank account itself, just by being there. And the second very important difference was her capability to plan ahead. So imagine the same situation where a savings bank account is available, but then Padma is still not visiting her financial institution to get those savings products, and she loses the opportunity also to learn about protecting herself or taking an education loan. So I think a large part of the challenge was just planning for those events, which not only access, but access with the wealth management approach would solve better. Thank you so much.